Hello, Jesus here again, back with the second part of the cannoning tutorial basics. Now I will be showing off some parts of cannons that you might see in cannons. I have some good demonstrations here for some of them, others I will demonstrate at a later point when we get to that, and there's a good situation where you can show that off. First is just sand and concrete pushers. Just a simple pushing in concrete and sand. You usually want to do that with a piston if you're using a one stacker or a concrete cannon. Second off is scatter. As you see cannons with a lot of scatter, often using a setup like this with sometimes multiple layers to drop the scatter in, and often use a repeater clock like this to drop a lot of scatter. The scatter is the part of your cannon that blows the actual hole in the wall that gets hybrided, and you want it at the top of your stack with sand falling on top of it, or concrete, or inside the concrete. A nuke would be similar to a scatter, but it would go with the sand and have its own hammer, so it gets mixed among the sand, so that would blow up the entire sand stack, not just at the top. Then we have the hammer, which is something you shoot out of your cannon above a block of compressed sand to, once it hits the wall, uncompress it downwards. The hammer has to be above the sand so it can shoot it downwards, and there's a set amount of TNT, if I recall correctly, I think 2.6 TNT per sand that you want to stack on 116. Here we have a power and compression. This is a very typical power setup with these alternating repeaters. This is basically how every power works. You can try a new design, but this one is very good. And then you also have a typical compression here that compresses the power into this block. This also works right here. Alright, next we have a sand compression. I've already shown off the carpet comp, which would basically keep these entities alive down here. You can drop multiple sand onto it, and then you can also compress that sand into the barrel or into somewhere else when needed. Then we're coming to the barrel. A barrel is sometimes needs to be long if you have a weak power cannon that shoots upwards, so your shot will go out of the barrel, out of the cannon, and align with the barrel to go to the height you want it to go. You can have a barrels at any height to really get your block where you want. You can have it at max height with just the trapdoors to get in really high, or you can adjust your barrel height or even half the height while you're shooting to get a different height. Next we have guiders or aligners. Now what these do is they align and guide pretty obviously align and guide the sand and TNT where it should go. That would obviously also be the effect of a barrel, but this can be much more complex. It can be used in a way with triangles, so that you can adjust your cannon later by moving these blocks, meaning your TNT and sand would get aligned here with either a stair align or a trapdoor align, depending on what you need for your cannon, and then it would be aligned here. When this TNT goes off, it would follow the triangle order. Since it would hit here like this, it would first go up against this, up, hit this, and then go in this direction, and you can add, I think, 2 more triangles to that on 116. You can also use the guiders to make a simple hammer, in this case without having to use the two-phase of power or the para. You would just have to put your sand below this block when a cannon fires with a lot of power, and your hammer below this block. That will cause the sand to align with this, and the hammer to align with this. And so once at a wall, the hammer would be above the sand and hammer down. The big issue with this would be that you can't fusion with this, since it would not go through one high hole. Alright, that's it for the second tutorial. Just some quick explanations and demonstrations of a cannon part.